Welcome to the 268th episode of the Jami Dulaney Plant-Based Wellness Podcast. My name is Jami Dulaney, and I'm your host. I'm a plant-based cardiologist and endurance athlete living in Southwest Florida. Welcome. I hope this finds you all safe from Marco, but especially Laura. My heart goes out to the people in the Gulf. This is going to be a big one that's going to hit here. So hopefully that goes and people have found safe spots and everybody stays safe and prayers to all of you out there. I've been through a hurricane myself, a big one, Charlie, back in 2004, and it really devastated my little town. And so I have some idea of what people go through. So prayers for you all, safe recovery, and hopefully no one is hurt. But today I have a guest on the podcast, Dana Ayers, who started her career and actually her running career as a staffer in Washington, D.C., and ran her first 5K as a part of President Bush's 5K that he organized along with all the Secret Service. We'll talk a little bit about that. She is a management consultant currently. She is a U.S. Navy reservist and a would-be unlikely runner, as she describes herself. She runs for fun. She runs for enjoyment. And we talk a lot about, how running is maybe on the surface doesn't seem that accepting with, the elite people that are running so fast. But in reality, you see all shapes and sizes and speeds when you go to a marathon or a running event. And it's a whole large party of positive people. There are many different ways to run in a group. You can run 5Ks, 10Ks, marathons, ultras. You can run relay races that cover any place from a marathon up to 200 miles, and we'll talk about that. So there's lots of ways to enjoy running. Obstacle courses would be another one. And Dana and I will talk about that as part of some of the funny things that's happened to her. And I would suggest, I'll put a link to where her book is on Amazon. It's coming out on Audible as well if you want to listen to it on your runs or your run walks. But it's hysterical. I listened to it on the plane, and I was laughing out loud. I mean, it's just things that happen to everybody, and I think you're really going to enjoy it. Before we get going on the interview, my running's coming along good. I'm still doing my mobility, not letting anything get out of hand, so that's really good. My mileage is up in the 40s of miles. I think I did 44 last week. And having a good time with the plant-based striders. We've now made it plant-based striders and riders to include those people that want to have some cycling accountability. So come on over if you're a cyclist and you want to tell us what you've been riding. We'd love to have you there as well. And you're plant-based, or you want to be plant-based, or you might be a little plant-based, or you're plant-based curious. We'd love to have you over. It's a nice group, motivating group. Post some pictures of where you ride. It's nice to see people from all over the country and where they're out exercising. That beep was my Instant Pot. My garbanzo beans are now cooked and ready to go for my dish that I'm going to make tomorrow night. I'm going to do a bit of a curry with cauliflower, peas, carrots, mushrooms, and chickpeas. So it should be really good. Beans are all ready the night before, so I don't have to worry about coming home and cooking those. I'll just cook some rice tomorrow in the Instant Pot when I get in the door, and have dinner on the table in 30 minutes. So I hope you're enjoying some of those as well. During the week, I like to get food on the table pretty quickly. Tonight we had a bean soup. Our local store sells a Cajun bean, multi-bean soup mix. That's a great thing to make ahead of time. You add a little tomato to it and some onion if you'd like. And you can add a little hot, spicy seasoning. There's a seasoning packet in it that's actually low in sodium. So it makes for a good soup. We had that with sourdough bread this evening and a salad. And easy meals during the week. Keep it simple, things like steamed greens, sweet potato and beans. Always good to get things going. I had an early morning today, so I did overnight oats and put my mango and strawberries in that, so I was ready to go. So keep things simple. I made a big salad tonight, so I have some left over from my lunch. I'm ready to go. Today, my salad was a kale salad, and I microwaved a sweet potato for about 4 or 5 minutes so I could chop that up into the salad with cucumber and half of avocado and lime juice and tomato and pepper. So simple stuff that's very nutritious, very filling. If you're not a kale fan and you're trying to get your greens in, I highly suggest that you massage them, cut it up small, cut things up small, as my mother would say, it tastes better, and then massage them with some sort of lemon juice or lime juice, whatever you have. And if your cholesterol tolerates it, a little half avocado, even a quarter of avocado, you can do. Just massage that into the kale. It makes the absorption of your fat-soluble vitamins a little bit better, and you get that kale softened up. So it gives it a really good combination when you add the lemon or lime juice with the avocado. So I did that. I also always put turmeric and cardamom and a little cumin on my salad as well, and that little Moroccan twist to things. So I love my raw salads at lunch, and for the most part, I do fruit in for breakfast. Again, this morning I kind of had it quick, so I made things in advance the night before. So I hope you enjoy some of those recipes. You can hop on over to Amazon, check out our cookbook, Plant-Based Wellness Cookbook, the Doctor, the Dietitian, and the Diva, and just things that you can get on the table that kind of comfort foods, healthy, but not a lot of ingredients. I had a little run-in on the Facebook this week, and it never surprises me how you can get some people stirred up, and I guess it's because it's that time of year, that November political season. But I shared a post talking about TB is a bad thing too, but we didn't lock down the world for it, and we didn't close down society, and we need to come out of our bubble. I'm seeing so many people in my office that are depressed and that are missing family and are afraid to go see family. And, I talked to a lady today or yesterday in my office, and it's like, okay, so you're 75 years old. If you only see your grandkids 2 times a year, and if you're lucky enough to live 15 more years, then that might be only 30 times you'll see your kids again and your grandkids. How can you afford to miss an opportunity when you have it to go see your grandkids because of some potential virus out there? It's not usually transmitted from kids to adults. Again, you really have to be around somebody for a long time. It's not all that contagious. Otherwise, we wouldn't have so much trouble, testing for it. But anyway, I put a Facebook post up there that said, TB is still around and people die of that every year. There's 2 to 3 million people that die every year of TB, and it is true, and that's on the CDC. It's not in the United States, but it's 2 to 3 million people around the world, and there's nothing much you can do. But people that live in the same household with TB, they live if their immune system is good. And my point being is that there are bad things out there. There are bad things that happen to good people. And, people survive things despite odds that may seem very scary. So we have to have a little faith, and we have to do what we can do. And one of the things that we can do is boost our immune system by eating plant-based. And the other thing is to normalize our body mass index. I hit home when I said, obese people have a high level of autoimmune diseases. They have a high level of diabetes, but they produce a lot of interleukins that's one of the reasons why COVID is so bad. So, if you have risk factors for being in a heightened immune state, the best thing you can do is, attack those risk factors and make yourself stronger. Somebody said, well, we're waiting on a vaccine, and it's like, there's a vaccine for TB. Well, there is a vaccine for TB, but it's not that effective. And there's so many side effects. It's not even given in the United States unless you're in, the dire circumstances or in a very dangerous area. The BCG vaccine is a live attenuated vaccine, and studies, the little bit of meta-analysis that's the efficacy rate is someplace between 0 and 80%. Meta-analysis, close as we can get, certainly not a randomized. There's been no randomized controlled trial on TB vaccinations. Best case scenario, 50% of efficacy. But it's contraindicated in those people that probably need it the most, people with autoimmune disease, people with chronic granuloma disease, HIV. There's been no animal studies. There's a question about causing infertility. There's a question of carcinogenesis. it is so toxic that you have to handle as a biohazard. So, I mean, it's not a benign vaccine that you can just take. And people need to realize a lot of these vaccines are not benign. Things happen years after the vaccination is given that can and happen to people that have underlying problems. If you have an impaired immune system, sometimes vaccinations can actually make things worse. So, I was not, my God, I got called an idiot. I got called a moron. I got called, there was a question of a religious zealot, which I'm not sure how that came in. I think it was somebody else that actually made a post that they tracked her down and tried to take her under the bus with me for trying to defend me. But, calm down. Everybody's entitled to your opinion. If you don't like my opinion, don't call people names. It's just so childish to call people names. I think we can have a civil discourse and civil interaction, and people can ask questions. I'm open to any kind of questions people want to ask me, but I will take offense that people that don't know me that attack my moral character or my, I guess, my education based on what they've seen on Facebook. I don't think that is quite enough evidence to condemn somebody to practically death. So anyway, there's that. But otherwise, life is good here in Florida. Again, it's humid. We're enjoying running. And as far as I know, my swim run's still on in November. And the marathon, again, best wishes and prayers for those people in California for all the wildfires. Our marathon in Sacramento could be iffy again this year, but more importantly, the safety of people in those surrounding areas. So my heart goes out to all those people again that have to, such a scary situation. We are still planning to run the Treasure Coast Marathon March the 1st in Florida. So look that up and come run with us. It's, again, March 1st. Hopefully everything will be back to some sort of new normal. And so training can, you got lots of time to train. I'm very proud of our plant-based starter. We have several people signed up for some races, potentially going to sign up for some relays. And, people that never thought, haven't run in years are starting to run and starting to enjoy it. So, I like what Mark Cucuzella said. You're too old not to run. Everybody needs to. It's the best way to increase your bone mineral density, pounding the pavement a little bit. Do it smart, build up gradually, get a running buddy. Lots of fun to be had out running. So I'm going to turn this over to Dana Ayers, and we're going to talk a little bit about the unlikely runner. So enjoy this episode. I'd like to welcome Dana Ayers to the podcast. She is the author of Confessions of an Unlikely Runner, and is due to go up on Audible soon, and we'll get you all the nitty-gritty details. I was given this book by one of the members of my practice, and I read it on the airplane, and I was laughing out loud embarrassingly. It was so funny and so true. When I first started doing marathons, it just seemed like every Monday after a marathon, I'd have another story of what went wrong, or some, became of what funny story do you have this time? And so this really hit home with me. And so welcome, Dana, and thank you for taking the time to be on the podcast.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm so glad you enjoyed the book.
So, you said fear of missing out. That kind of got you started, and you were working as a consultant. You were actually working as a staffer in the White House, and the 5K came up, and you're like, why not? Is that how it got started?
Yeah, it is. I never ran growing up. I was never in track or anything. I'm not very naturally athletic. But President Bush is an avid runner. He was running like 6-minute miles in his 60s. And he created a 5K race just for staff. So there was only about 200 people in the race, including his Secret Service detail. And I was like, how can you say no to that? So that was my first race.
No, that's very, very exciting. Did you get some sort of commemorative medal for that? Or, I mean, you have some keepsake or not? T-shirt?
I have the shirt. I actually just turned a bunch of my T-shirts into a blanket, into a quilt. And that one was definitely one of the ones I wanted to keep.
Yeah, that is actually a very, very memorable experience. That's quite cool. Rome was my first marathon, and the medal was kind of like a bronze-looking type medal. And one of my elderly patients asked me, "So you were in the Olympics?" It's like, no, and so just a marathon in Rome. Well, did you win? No, Well, what place did you get? Well, I don't know, 15,000, something like. Really? Maybe you should have practiced. It's like.
Yeah, I was closer to the first lady in that 5K, and she was walking.
So 5K, and then what happened?
After that, I kind of got hooked. So a lot of people in DC are runners. I think it's a good stress reliever. And so once you do a race, then you meet people and they encourage you to do the next race that they're doing. And so I think the next one I did was actually a 10-miler. I went from 3 miles to 10 because the Army 10-miler is a really popular one in DC every October. Yeah. So that was my next one, I think.
I always wanted to run that. I've run the Marine Corps 4 times, but taken pictures of the Army 10-miler. I've seen the formations, and that looks really, really cool.
Yeah, I love that. I love anything with the military. I'm a Navy reservist, but the spirit about the military races is so encouraging.
Very, very, very cool. So about what age were you when you started all this, if you don't mind me asking?
Oh man. I was early 20s.
Okay. So you're still pretty fresh out of the gate,
Yes. But yeah.
Yeah, so you kept it up because some people, they kind of do the one and done things, but you kept coming on, and so how quickly did it end up to the marathon part?
Less than 10 years. It took me several years to get to where I wanted to do the full marathon. I kept saying I would never do one because 26 miles, the human body's not meant to run that many miles. That's what I told people for years. And you do the 5K and then the 10-miler and then the half marathon. And that's how you get sucked in. And pretty soon you're like, well, if I can do that, then maybe I could do a full. And that's how I got sucked in.
And did you run by yourself mostly, or you have a running buddy that kept you going a little bit?
For the marathon, I did team and training.
Mm-hmm.
So we had a set group that was raising funds for leukemia research, and we would run the long runs together on the weekends, and we'd run our own training miles through the week. So I did a lot of those on the treadmill, actually.
Do you run by yourself mostly now, or do you run in a group?
I run by myself mostly now. Yeah, I was involved in Team Red, White, and Blue in DC, which is great. It's a way for veterans and civilians to intermix through physical activity. And DC's chapter is really large, so there's people at all paces. So I felt comfortable running with them because I'm slow. So sometimes I get nervous joining groups because I'm afraid no one's going to be at my pace. But they were great. But I moved to North Carolina early this year, and then COVID happened. So I have yet to find a group here.
Very good. Yeah, that's kind of a big difference. I mean, DC is such a great place to run. I mean, with the mall and everything, it's just like you almost have to run if you're in DC.
Yeah, for sure. It's a social thing.
Yeah, so many people are out in the morning. I mean, every time I visit there, it's so fun to. We always run the mall and all that, do the same loops, and it's really, really good. And how'd you get to the Ragnar series? So tell people what the Ragnar relays are, and for people that are just kind of starting new to running.
So Ragnars are a relay race. They happen in several cities across the country. It's about 200 miles total, and you have a team of either 6 or 12 people, depending on how ambitious you are. And it takes about 20 to 38 hours to complete. So it's overnight. You're living in vans. It's it's kind of crazy, but it's an adventure. I had so much fun during mine. I was on a team of 12, so we each had 3 legs to run. So you're basically like running, I don't know, 3 to 7 miles per leg. And then you sit in the van and you wait for your next turn to come up. And that's what you do until the race is over. And it was just an adventure because you're living with these people for 2 days and you're just running and kind of bonding.
And half of the people you didn't even know, right?
More than half. Yes. I like to just hit the go button, find out what's going to happen to me afterwards. And so a friend of mine encouraged me to join his team. And I knew very little about the race or the team going in and figured I'd, find out once I got there, which is what happened. So I didn't know, I don't think I knew anyone in my van, maybe one person. And then I knew a couple of people that were in our other van, and you kind of just see them at what's called exchange points, where you're passing the baton to the next van to take it the next several legs. So it's just this constant churn of runners everywhere, and it's kind of disorienting, but you get really close to people really quickly. So it doesn't matter that you didn't know them from the beginning. At the end, you're all like family.
You spend enough time being stinky and dirty in a van, and you become family, right? Your microbes have intermingled enough that you're basically related.
Exactly.
So you've tried a couple other things as far as sports go. There was a CrossFit go, there was a Tough Butter go type of thing. What brings you back to running every time?
The races and the obstacle courses and adventures definitely are a huge part for me because I love trying something new. I love adventures. And so like Tough Mudder and Ragnar, all of those things were just kind of something crazy to do on a weekend. And that then got me out on the running trail regularly more because I had to be in good enough shape to be able to finish those races in enough time to where I wasn't swept off the course. So that kind of helps me get out. If I have a race coming up, then I'll get out and train more. And then the running community, it's been such a positive experience, and there's so much encouragement at any pace, any size, there's people running races that have disabilities or are obese, battling obesity. There's all different types of people out there, and the whole running community supports them all. So it's just I haven't found that in a lot of other places.
Isn't that funny? I mean, I think, and we'll get to the Boston experience a little bit later, but isn't it amazing in a sport where the people up front are these skinny little speed demons that are running 4.5-minute miles, that anybody, any size, any shape, could be anywhere in the pack, and yet everybody's accepting. Even the people up front are cheering for the people in the back, and total strangers are on the sidelines screaming their lungs out for people they have no idea who they are. It's a unique sport, don't you think?
Absolutely. Yes. And I think that's one thing that intimidates people. They think, it is only the fast, skinny speed demons, and that they're not going to fit in. But the running community is just so encouraging. And I feel like people support each other at any pace, and everyone's just happy for each other. Like they just support each other, whatever your goal is, if it's finishing in 2 hours or if it's finishing in 8. Everybody's just supporting each other in their personal goals.
What would you say to someone that says, yeah, I'm too old to start running, or my knees hurt when I tried to run when I was younger?
Oh man, there's so many great stories of people who did their first marathon at like 60 or 70. I don't think you're ever too old to pick it up. And it's building on top of each other. So I always tell people, I feel like almost anyone can finish a marathon. It's really just about putting time into training. It's not really about ability or even physical fitness at first. You do a mile, then you do 2, then you do 3, and you just work your way up. And there's so many more people that can do it that feel like they can.
So what's your next, do you have anything on the books?
I don't. So I am signed up for a rock and roll half marathon. I was supposed to do it in DC and it got canceled. I was supposed to do it in Virginia Beach and it got canceled. So COVID has put that on the back burner, but I'm still technically signed up for whenever the world reopens, I will do a rock and roll half.
So has it been, I would imagine this COVID thing has been very disappointing for you as far as your running goes, because you like to have the races on the weekend as your motivation tool. So has motivation been difficult during COVID?
It has. Yeah, I'm not going to lie. I have been doing more walks than jogs. But I've also started to fall back in love with running because of COVID, because of needing to clear my head or needing to get fresh air, or needing to just listen to some music and zone out. So I've started feeling those original feelings I had of like, oh, this is just liberating, and I'm just enjoying the nature around me. So I'm starting to fall back in love with it, but no, I've definitely gone weeks and weeks and weeks without running during this year.
And when you're training, do you do a straight run or do you do a walk run, or varies all over?
It depends on the length of the race. So for my full marathon, I did the run walk method. Mm-hmm. But for like the Army 10 miler, I've done that race probably 8 times now. And I've finished it both ways. And the weird thing, maybe it's not weird, but it's usually the same finish time. So whether I'm running the whole thing without stopping or I'm doing more of a run walk, I end up pretty much finishing the same time.
Yeah, I was playing around this weekend. I've played with all of them, and I was doing 2 minutes and run 30 seconds walk, and I went to 3 minutes run and 30 seconds walk, and my mile times actually got a little faster and it was seemed to me a little easier. I think it depends on your head. My mindset is I'd rather not have to push quite so hard for the run segments, so that you know what I mean? So, because if I do 2 and 30, I got to push harder to get to that pace, as opposed to 3. I can go a little bit longer and keep it more steady. I think, I don't know. It just depends, I guess, on your head on that day, but yeah, you're right. It just depends. You can go faster, sometimes doing more walking even.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's why I don't mind being a slow runner, because I do feel like I'm enjoying it. Whereas if I was really trying to hit a PR, then it becomes a job to me, mm-hmm. And then I don't enjoy it as much.
So it's more for you about the adventure.
Yes, the adventure, the community, and the stress relief.
Do you see yourself running as an old lady? And that's older than 60, by the way. I'm 50. I'm 58, so don't throw too many stones. Be careful. And we have an avid 84-year-old marathon finisher listening to this podcast.
Oh, I love it. I do. Yeah, I do. I've talked to physical therapists about my knees, and essentially she was like, you know what, if your knees are going to be bad, they're going to be bad regardless. So you might as well be doing the things that you enjoy. And I don't know, I've talked to different doctors just to make sure I'm not doing something unhealthy. And the advice I've received is supportive of running as long as you feel good and you want to. And my full marathon, I was running I started with mostly the senior citizens because of my pace. And I learned that most of them were doing a marathon or 2 a month that entire year. So I've seen enough modeled that I believe that you can keep doing it, your whole life.
Yeah. I'm going to give you a pointer. So it's not like, people talk about bad horses and dogs that have bad knees. It's not your knees, it's the inflammation. So what you eat is going to determine how long you run. And if you keep the inflammation out of your body and you keep your mobility good, you'll be running till you're 90 or 100.
Oh, I love that. Thank you.
So, yeah, you can, people, it's funny, when I started running and I started marathons, I think I was pretty close to 40, and everybody in the doctor's lounge would tell me, I used to run, but my hips hurt now and my knees hurt now. And, I keep going back to the doctor's lounge and I'm still running, and those people have their stents and their hip replacement, their knee replacements, and they're buying bigger clothes. And it's like, still running. They'll say, you still running? It's like, yeah, I'm still running.
I love that. That's encouraging.
Yeah, it's so eat well, keep your inflammation down, and you'll run long and run strong forever. What do you do on race day nutrition wise? Anything special?
No, I do very little. So even when I was doing my long runs for the marathon and when I did the marathon itself, the max I eat before a race is maybe one piece of whole wheat bread with some peanut butter. And then I use goo, like some kind of
gel of sorts,
energy booster. Yeah. Anything over, I've always been told anything over 10 miles is a good idea, but I've even started using it over 6 miles at times, just for a little energy boost, but that's about it.
Sometimes you need to pick me up. Have you ever tried maple syrup?
No.
So there's, I'm not sponsored by anybody, but there's a couple companies out there. I think it's could be Maple Tap, or they'll never be sponsored by them because I'm not saying it right. But there's a couple companies out there that have maple syrup and for the most part maybe a little bit of sodium in it, but they really sit well. Because sometimes you get tired. In my first marathon, I did chocolate goo and red Gatorade for 3 months training, and to this day I even have trouble saying it just because it's just so repulsive, the thought of it. But so I try to save the good. If there's a flavor I like, I try to save it for the race so that I don't burn it out too much. But the maple syrup, because it's just sweet, will go down when other things won't sometimes. So give it a shot. I've even on the bike, because I do triathlon too, made a slurry of maple syrup and grape juice and taken it. So you can do a lot of things with the maple syrup. It's pretty simple. Just, get yourself a jug of maple syrup and stick it in a tube and you're ready to go.
I like it. It's a good tip. I've seen people use jelly beans too. Yeah.
I've done Skittles. The funniest story I have with Skittles is I was doing a long run one day, and it was around Halloween, so they had those little packets of Skittles, and I cracked one open and stuck the whole thing in my mouth. And just as I did, a car went by, and the guy just looked at me mortified, like, if you didn't eat so many Skittles, you wouldn't have to run like you are, But,
that's awesome.
yeah, it's pretty good. So, training, so your training's kind of anything you would tell, I guess, advice you would give to a first time marathoner getting ready to go, being afraid of the distance and can they finish, and what words of wisdom would you give them?
That it, like I said, it builds on itself, and it really is, it's easier than you think it will be, I think. I had people tell me before I trained for mine, like, pretty soon 10 miles is going to be your short run. Like, you're just going to be like, oh, thank goodness, it's only 10 miles tomorrow. And that sounded crazy to me at the time, but it's absolutely true. Like, I remember now, as the miles built, thinking, oh, tomorrow's only 10 miles. Like, I can stay up later tonight. I don't have to worry. Cause then you have like a 18 miler the next week. But yeah, it is easier than you think if you follow a program. And I think with any goal, it's always important to think about your big why, like not just I'm going to run a marathon. Why do you want to run a marathon, and how do you want to feel? Visualize how you will feel when it's done. And if you can hold that vision in your head when times get tough, that can carry you through. Whereas if you kind of lose that vision and you're like, oh, I have to do miles tomorrow and I just don't want to, you won't get up and do it.
Yeah, that's really good. We talk about know your why when it comes to nutrition. This podcast is Jami Delaney, plant-based wellness podcast, and changing to a plant-based diet to reverse lifestyle diseases. And, again, it's not easy because 96% of the world doesn't eat this way. And when you're trying to, it's easier to turn down a Krispy Kreme if you're focused on why you want to, eat this way and reverse your diabetes. So it's the same thing, with the marathon. I think that's really good if you know why you want to finish it, other than, maybe it is just your bucket list, or maybe it is fitness, but, what you want to do. I think that's really good, and how you want to feel at the end. How did you feel at the end of the first marathon?
I felt great. Honestly, I realize that's the difference between training properly and not, because there's so many times that I've ran races that I probably shouldn't have because I didn't train as well as I should have. And you're super sore for days afterwards. And after my marathon, I was back in heels at the office. Like, I was fine because I had done the work to get my body used to being in motion for that long. And so it was like, oh yeah, just another weekend and you're good to go.
Do you do any cross training now, or exercise mobility or anything like that special? Or are you more of wait till it's broke and then we'll try to fix it?
I hate to say this, but I think I fall in the second category.
Yeah, I think most people probably do. I swear to you, I swear to the running gods, I'll always stretch if you just let me get past this one, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Stretching is really hard for me because I feel like there's no time to even run at all, let alone time to then stretch afterwards. So that's a big challenge. I've had alignment issues where I had to go see a physical therapist and get dry needling to fix my alignment issues. So, I'll go for a little while and do my strength training, and then I'll let it lapse, and you feel the repercussions, especially as you get older.
Yes, unfortunately, that's all true. You have some really funny quotes and some really funny things in there. And one is, you got sucked in like caramel mochas. It's you caught the bug. You got the bug for running. But I'm not going to give away the. I don't want you to tell the story about your wardrobe malfunction, because that's just too good. I think everybody should have to read the book to get that one. And I was howling during that one. But tell me something that's not in the book that you've had that maybe, I guess, a blooper that didn't make the book.
Oh no. I used most of the good ones. Oh gosh. Just silly, like getting caught in weather. That's definitely happened to me. I've been in a race, a trail run, 10K, that it rained so hard that I thought my contact lens was falling out of my eye. I literally thought they were flooding, like my eyes were flooding. And I was wearing a red baseball cap. I kind of allude to this in the book, but I was wearing a red baseball cap because when you run in the rain, that's a great trick to keep the water out of your eyes. But I didn't realize that the baseball cap hadn't been washed enough. So when the rain started coming, I just started seeing what looked like blood pouring into my face because the dye was coming out of the cap. So just little stuff like that where you're just like, oh man, I got caught in something crazy just on my run. But I don't know, that kind of stuff just makes it more entertaining to me.
Exactly.
I don't mind it.
When I did that, for some reason, I always have aspirations that I'll be much faster than I am. And I always turn to what the Kenyans do, even though I have nothing in common with them other than I do start at the same place, or I guess I start at the same day, not the same place. But I always, it took me a long time, and still I'm afraid that I'm going to get, and I'm not fast, I'm someplace between, I guess 407 is the best. So 407 and 5 something, that could be the range. So, but I'm always afraid that I'm going to get overheated and that's going to slow me down. I have no idea why, I think, and how much that could possibly slow me down. But I've always, I have a couple races that especially in Paris comes to mind, that I thought I was going to freeze to death because I started having to walk because of some IT bans, and it was 40 degrees and, kind of spitting sleet type of thing. And I was dressed like a Kenyan, only I was going to run a 5.5 hour marathon. And, so I just, but I never get, it amazes me of how, I guess there's always this optimism, like, today's the day, and you think, and it's like, no, it wasn't, it's not. And I wish I had a jacket, but,
That's what trash bags are for. That's why trash bags are the best.
Well, that marathon, I did not have a trash bag. And I actually looked to the side of the road to see if I could find a trash bag, and finally found a discarded T-shirt that was on a fire hydrant. And, the deal I made with myself, if it didn't smell too foul, I was going to take it. And that's what I did. And it actually smelled, there was actually a very nice cologne scent to it. So it was rather pleasant for most of the marathon. But I put it over my arms, and I'm running it with just over my arms. And this guy says, finally, when we got past you speak English and French and all that kind of stuff, he's like, why do you have that on your arms? It's like, because I'm cold.
Please tell me you kept that T-shirt. That's amazing.
I did. So what I do in my practice is I take the T-shirts and the bib and I have them framed. And so I cut out a piece of that T-shirt and put in the frame, so I could always remember that T-shirt, because it was a memorable day. I should have put the stinking shorts in there that were way too flimsy for a 45-degree 5-hour marathon. So, well, good. I'm glad. Any more books in the future? A Ragnar book? I mean, would you recommend a Ragnar relay for somebody, or a Tough Mudder? What would be your progression for people?
I definitely recommend them because I think they're fun. And I was intimidated by both before I did them. So I always try to tell people not to let race hype get the best of you, because the Tough Mudder is, that's how they market it. It's touted as, only the fiercest people can finish, and it's formulated by British Special Forces. And so it was like, it's kind of a mind game before you go in. And if you're a casual runner like I am, you're like, oh, maybe I should stay away from this. But no, again, there's always people at various paces, and there's always people willing to help you through. So I love those kind of races because everyone's helping each other. For a progression, I don't know. I mean, I've done a mix. I went from a 3 mile to a 10, and then I started doing trail runs, and then I started doing obstacle courses. And I don't think there's a set. I think whatever sounds interesting is the best thing to go for, because that's what's going to keep you training.
So is there an ultra in your future?
Oh, I say no, but I also now understand that you get sucked in. And once you do a full marathon, then ultra's kind of next. I don't intend to, but I would never, I don't say no anymore, for sure. But what I have wanted to do is a try, and I have not done one yet. So I think a sprint try would probably be first.
Here you go. Yeah, I had friends talk me into the Ironman, and their words were, it's easier to run a marathon after you ride a bike because you're not going so fast. It's like, there's just no way that could be true.
I love the logic, though.
Yeah, it's like, after you, but what the real logic is, after you ride a bike for 112 miles, you're willing to run a marathon just to get off the bike. That's what the logic really goes. Do anything just to get off the bike. So the sprints are good. And that would be you would really enjoy the triathlon, I think, and that would be a whole new book for you, because there's lots of things that can go wrong in that.
I can imagine. I actually have a friend who is in the middle of writing a book about his ultra experience, because he's a dad of small children, and he was just kind of like, didn't know what he was doing, kind of jumped into it. So I think his should be pretty funny. But and I would also say, like, to encourage people, I always tried to find somebody that looked like me, like on paper, they had similar lifestyles, similar eating styles, similar level of laziness. And if they could get through a race, then I could too. And so find someone who's done an Ironman. They're out there. I've seen them. I've looked at them and thought, you did an Ironman? And when I found out they did, I was like, I could probably do one too.
There you go. So in the back of the book, if you get all the way to the back, it says the moral of the story is you can be a runner too. And I think that was fabulous, because I do think that just about anybody can be a runner and benefit from the community, benefit from the sport itself. And I think what your book is really it's a funny story, and it's entertaining, but it also comes back down to it that it does give a very good invitation to running and being active and trying something outside your comfort zone.
Thank you. I'm really glad to hear that. It's been an amazing experience to have people read it and send me a message and tell me that that they just signed up for their first 5K. So it's been really awesome to just connect with runners and new runners all over the world who've gotten hold of the book.
Well, I enjoy it, and again, everybody should pick up a copy. Confessions of an Unlikely Runner, and if you're out running, I like to listen to audiobooks, so it would be a hoot to listen to while you're running on Audible because again, like I said, I was laughing out loud on the airplane just uncontrollably. Some of the stories, they were so funny and hit home. So I really do enjoy it, and thank you so much for taking time to speak with me.
Yeah, thank you for having me. And yeah, you can get the Kindle version or print on Amazon right now. And hopefully, fingers crossed, it'll be on Audible within a month.
Perfect. Go get it, everybody. Thank you, Dana. Happy running. Don't get electrocuted in any of those Tough Mudders.
Thank you. Good to chat with you.
All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
So I hope you enjoyed the interview with Dana Ayers. Great, positive, motivating person that she is. Go on over to Amazon and pick up a paperback copy or a Kindle copy, or just shortly you'll be able to get the Audible edition. I'll leave all those in the show notes. Thank you again for tuning in. Dana joined the Plant-Based Striders. Maybe you should too. So check out our group on Facebook if you'd like some accountability or share where you run. Go on over to drdulaney.com, doctordulaney.com, to check out what we have to offer as a practice. We focus on getting people off their medications, reversing lifestyle diseases so that you too can go out and run a marathon or climb a mountain or just visit your grandkids when you want to do that. Email me at jami@drdulaney.com. Please keep the hate mail to yourself. I haven't had any yet, but I'm sure it's probably on the way at some point. But no, I'm open for any questions that you might have. Again, I think it's nice to have a discussion. I believe we all have something in common, and we all have some goodness in each other that we can share, and we can all learn from each other if we just have an open mind. So I hope you stay healthy, whether you're in California, Iowa, Pennsylvania, Texas, or Louisiana, or any place else in the world. Get out and get a run, hug your friends and family, eat your vegetables, and enjoy your week. Thank you for listening, as always.